The second reason for saying it is actually there's very good evidence that the people were not monotheistic.
What's the evidence?
So, and this is where it comes to if you look at the Islamic history, you will see that the people of the time were worshipping multiple idols.
What is the evidence though? Do you have any evidence that we can produce today which is either contemporary to when Islam is supposed to have begun or earlier to suggest this point?
We can bring other detail. We have hadith. We have historians writing at the time. Even the ones that Christians like to quote, like Tabari, who talk about the practices of the people in the region.
So all of these people are watching you, Imran. I asked for evidence during the time of the beginning of Islam, minus 200 years, to provide evidence for the prevalence of idolatry. You simply did not.
If you want to find physical evidence, you can see statues of the gods that the people worship are available for you to look at. You can see that this is historical artifacts that are available for you to look at now.
So, statues in Yemen. Well, from statues from when? I agree there was idolatry in the Arabian Peninsula before 200 years, before Islam's origin. I completely agree. And they agree with that too. I also. So the question is not whether idolatry existed at some stage in Arabian Peninsula. No. Again, third time, and I said I'll give him one more time, and I've given him that time. Imran, you are a medical doctor here.
I am a medical doctor.
And you know 3 times you had a chance, simply could not present. And I can simply say, no part of history can be established through this book.
I'm pointing out the illogicity within the premises that you're bringing. So 1 second.
Go on.
If you have inscriptions from a specific group of people scattered around the Arabian Peninsula, you cannot extrapolate from that, and I haven't seen the evidence yet, I'm just taking your word, you cannot extrapolate from that all of Arabia was monotheistic.
So I'm going to clarify right now, because
What's the scholar that you raised?
I'm responding.
Just before you respond.
Yeah, sure.
The counter, because we're comparing now.
No, the counter is you have distorted my claim there, and the distortion is this. You of course asked me repeatedly, who are these people? When I referred to Safavitic inscription, and I said these are not people. This is a category of a language, of a language in existence in Arabian Peninsula. Recent research tells us. I mean, I'll put it.
You're using this vague phrase.
Sure. But the thing is, you are not familiar with Safavitic inscription. That's my. So
what was it the only one?
Sure. Are you the cop right now? Or what's it? I'm responding to you. I don't know why.
Oh, you don't want to talk to me now? No.
I'm ready to talk. But let's not
we're becoming derailed.
That's fine.
Oh, okay. So it was okay for you to do it. But now that I'm asking you a question, you're getting upset now.
I didn't use the word derail. He said.
Oh, okay.
You should be speaking to him.
So now you don't want me to speak.
Wait a second.
You know what I'll do? I'll actually respect your decision. No. I'll respect your decision actually, that you just want to have a conversation with Imran, and I'll let you get on with it. I won't interrupt you the way you interrupted me.
You seem to be interrupting.
Please go ahead.
Cool, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So my only point.
No, don't talk to me. Talk to him.
My only point is Imran representing your people. If you want to join with Imran, that's fine. But don't take twice the time and give me only. Don't do that. That's my only point. Now, Imran, can I put it this way, Imran? So you weren't familiar with the Safavitic inscriptions.
No.
So can I?
Yeah. It's improper to characterize.
No,
you're bringing the evidence. You're saying it's recent research.
Yeah, that's fine. But because you miscaricatured what I was trying to say by saying that I was projecting or I was extrapolating evidence from some region or a portion to the entire area. I'm going to repeat, and if you want more details, I can bring the actual research report to you and present it before you.
I'm going to ask you to do that.
Absolutely, but not today. I haven't got it, unfortunately, with me right now.
So you understand that at the moment, this is really, you're arguing from the perspective of a single academic who's bringing this position based upon their research and inscriptions. None of this is definitive.
No. Wait, no.
You understand the position?
But Imran,
I want you to clarify.
No, don't clarify. Don't clarify like that. You can't preemptively.
Don't do that to him, please. And then he make his
You
argument.
see, did he say he was? He's a bit ashamed. Please
I'm
don't.
going to him. He's not ashamed at all. He's never ashamed of me, brother. We're brothers.
I know.
Yeah, we don't get ashamed of each other like that.
Just because your brothers relate to each
You get ashamed of one another
each other do anything you want.
You get ashamed very easily.
Look at him.
We'll always speak upon the truth.
Yeah, sure. Now, Imran.
Yes.
So today I don't have the printout. I agree. I even put my two hands up. I'd like to present the printout to you now with evidence. I'd like you to respond to the evidence that is presented. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to speak on behalf of 3 separate researchers who are the world leaders in this area. Arabic, inscriptions in the Arabian Peninsula. There are 3 stalwarts, world stalwarts. Michael McDonald, Ahmed Al-Jalad, and then thirdly, a number of people including Leila. Stalwarts across the world, there is none better than them. And I'm going to present their own findings to you. And so the point is, it's not. I'm not talking from. I'm not presenting to you one viewpoint as if another viewpoint exists.
So another viewpoint already exists because this is what you're countering with this evidence.
Sure, go on.
The other viewpoint already exists as a narrative within history that was widely accepted. That you're bringing evidence to counter. You understand?
Sure.
Yeah.
So now,
hang on a second. Let me make a statement. So again, what you're doing is simply this: you're taking some recent evidence, recent research of a specific group of people. This is, I've just had a quick look. Is one of the Semitic languages available within the Arabian Peninsula. Sephardic is one of the Semitic languages available within the Arabian.
out of how many?
Many.
No.
How
You
many?
really know about it.
I've had a look.
Sorry,
I'm a boss.
you are.
I thought you said you were
sorry.
Imran. You see, you want to bring me in.
Imran,
Let me have my say. So you're bringing one of the available Semitic languages in the region, for which inscriptions were found by some researchers, who are then making the claim that the Arabia was monotheistic. Hang on one second. You're making this claim that the Arabia was monotheistic. Okay. Now that's you haven't presented it. You haven't given me why they can extrapolate this and make this general.
I disagree with the claim that it's an extrapolation. I'll clarify why.
Sure.
But once you
that's
finish,
fine.
yes.
So the reason I'm making it as an extrapolation is because it's not all of the available Arabic tribes or languages of the tribes in that region who are doing this.
Sure.
The second reason for saying it is actually there's very good evidence that the people were not monotheistic.
What's the evidence?
So, and this is where it comes to if you look at the Islamic history, you will see that the people of the time were worshipping multiple idols.
What is the evidence though? Sure.
So what you've done is you've brought a secular historian to bring this concept. I've heard you. I'm saying it's not sufficient as an evidence to prove monotheism exists. The current understood narrative of the region is that the people were polytheistic. Why did I say this? Because they were not from the Jews at the time or the Christians at the time, who were monotheists at the time. Okay, there were Jews there specifically in tribes who were monotheists, and the rest of the people surrounding, unless you're saying all of this area was monotheistic, which is the claim.
Yes.
This is the claim.
Yeah.
Which you have to bring more than just some inscriptions of this.
Sure. So I heard you, Imran. Here is the challenge though. For inscriptions, you said there are many other languages. Researchers studied in detail.
Yes.
They understand that Arabic, as you know, Arabic today was as recent as having been in existence for only for 100 or 200 years before Islam's advent.
No, that's not true.
This is
incorrect.
I'll finish what I wanted to say. And prior to this period, they have broadly 2 categories of languages: North Arabian, South Arabian languages. And in South Arabia at that time, Southern Arabia, you have cities. Well, Yemen of the previous way in which Yemen was. You have cities and city-based languages, not Arabic. Likewise, Northern Arabian languages, they have a couple of different categorizations, one of which is Safayitic. In other words, it's one major branch.
I understand.
And then I'll clarify. This Safayitic inscriptions...
One second.
Sure.
Before you move on. So you're evidencing my position. You are saying that Sephardic is specific to a region.
No.
Yes, you just said it just now. You said, hang on a
Sure.
sec, you said the southern part of the country was city-based languages. You said that the Sephardic language was specific to the north. You said the Sephardic language was specific to the north. You said that, not me. Now, 1 second. This bolsters my position that I was saying to you, that you cannot take the inscriptions from a selected language of a group of people and generalize it to the whole of the region, which is what the thesis.
I didn't finish my previous point, Imran.
But
with all due respect, let's put it this way. I didn't finish my previous. I didn't finish my.
You can finish your point. Just let me just make the statement. So this claim is evidence for. Now, one of the things here is, again, we're dealing with academics who are theorizing about monotheism being prevalent in the region as a theory based upon some inscriptions. None of this is, for me,
Yeah, so so that was your previous point. I'm trying to respond to your previous point. Number one, Sephardic inscription fairly covers Mecca, Medina, all of that area. Please, let me finish. Yeah. What is Southern Arabian in regards to their categorization is merely the stretch of Yemen. Anything north already is Northern Arabic according to them. So Mecca, Medina is all part of that. So point number one, according to all inscriptions they are studying, this is what they find. Number two, you suggested that Islam as a religion and the history you think is associated with that tells you something to the contrary.
Yes.
Now what I understand very simply is Islam does not provide early evidence. And so my challenge to you, Abbas, would be very simply
Imran.
Okay, I'll
sorry.
for you.
Oh, apologies. Sorry, apologies. I'm really sorry. Imran, I apologize.
I must have traumatized him so much. My name is ringing in his brain all the time.
Possibly. So, yeah. Maybe.
Because I need some help and counselling
That's
after.
fine.
You know, nightmares. Wake up in the middle of the night.
That's a bit of an extrapolation. That's pretty good. But I'm glad you think towards
You
about
like
yourself. That's good. Yeah. Now coming to you, Imran.
I'm not repeating my name.
Imran. Okay. Apologies. So, in regards to the contrary position, you said idolatry was around and Islam as a religion has evidenced this and people have accepted this. Do you have any evidence that we can produce today which is either contemporary to when Islam is supposed to have begun or earlier to suggest this point?
Okay, so the first thing is, I want you to understand your position, because I don't think you.
I understand. No.
I'm giving you evidence. Arul, you have to let me
Yes,
speak.
please, yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be.
But you don't patronize. I've given a
I'm
very
not
specific
patronizing.
question. You said I don't understand.
Arul,
Yeah.
you don't know me. We've not met before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
don't assume when I say something
Sure,
to you, I'm patronizing.
Sure.
I don't do that.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is maybe you don't understand the implications of what you're saying. Okay.
I understand
Okay,
perfectly.
okay,
I have presented the
So
question.
first,
Answer my question.
I'll answer your question.
Sure.
So first of all, there already is an existing narrative
Yeah.
based upon historicity of polytheism within this region. I will give you the evidence for it, no problem.
Yes, please.
You're bringing something to change the narrative because you said there is recent evidence. So the one that's changing the status quo is you. Do you understand?
Not entirely
Yes,
true.
Allow
Not
me to finish
Okay.
my point. Because I'm just highlighting
Sure.
the position you're coming with.
That's not my position. Just speak for yourself. I can clarify my position.
From my perspective, your position.
Okay, sure.
Because you're making the claim this was all monotheistic. Now you bring evidence it wasn't. You understand? Now I'm saying to you, actually, that the standard understanding historicity has always been that this was a polytheistic region. Always been, and I'll give you examples of this. No problem. That's fine. And now you are bringing evidence to counter this existing narrative. The evidence you're bringing is from this academic, yeah? who found some inscriptions from a specific part of the Semitic languages, the Sephardic language, and you're saying this is now evidence, the extrapolation is here, this is now evidence that the whole of the region was monotheistic. That's the new thing, a new theory that you're bringing, okay? Again, no evidence actually presented, we're just, your theory you're presenting, this is not definitive. So what is this? So I'll go straight to the Islamic sources. Okay, the Quran, we have the Quran, right? The Quran, we have it. We have two ways. We have. Let's just stick to the academics first, the Western method. We have manuscripts of the Quran that date to the time of the Prophet. Within the discussions within the Quran, there are responses to the pagans of the region. Within the Quran, there are responses to the pagans of the region. Within the time. You understand? So this is an establishment of the fact that they were not, that these people were pagan.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're done. Okay, so
So now I've presented to you one piece of evidence, contemporary to the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where the Quran itself is responding to the pagans of the region as evidence against this notion that everyone was already monotheistic.
sure. So I'd like to challenge you, Imran. I've gone through the entire Quran right now. I am in the process of writing a book, and I can challenge you and say the Quran calls Jews and Christians as idolaters. I agree. But beyond that, going beyond that, it does not evidence to the fact of other predominant idolatry at the time of the writing of the Quran.
So I
It
wanna
does not.
let me
It
understand
does
your-
not. Over and over again, it'll go and quibble with Jews and Christians over and over again.
So let me
What you will not find.
let me understand.
I need to finish. This. So, in other words, I'd like you to show details from the Quran of the prevalence of idolatry in the Arabian Peninsula, especially in Mecca. Prevalence of idolatry in Mecca from the Quran. I'd like you to show the
one
details
second.
from here. Let me finish because you made many points earlier.
I already made
I'd
one
like-
point.
No, it made many points there. So I'd like you to show from the Quran what the deal is. What I'm going to say to the contrary is, so you suggested that by presenting latest evidence, I'm trying to overthrow previous understanding of history. I disagree. How I see things are very clear. Across different parts of the world, religions came up, not necessarily through evidence, not necessarily through scrutinizing of history, but just because people wanted to have blind faith and all sorts of different things. You see that in Babylon, Iraq of that time, you see that in Persia and so on. Just like that, I see Islam having started also without early evidence. You need to suggest.
This is a different point.
No, but my point is, I'm not trying to.
You're making a historical argument. Stick with your historical argument.
My historical argument
So
is
you
simple.
made a challenge.
I'm trying to make a historical argument here. It's not any different from historical argument. The historical argument is the latest research is not trying to dethrone a previously established, verified historical argument, but rather is trying to dethrone the previous held beliefs about Islam.
Okay.
If you're going to tell me, if you thank you for the comment. If you could provide evidence, it will solve the issue. So we're waiting just for the evidence.
Just wait.
So absolutely. So I'd like to find out from you, Imran, evidence contemporary to when Islam is supposed to have begun, minus about 200 years, that the Arabian Peninsula was still soaked in idolatry. Evidence for that.
So now I want to see the shifting of the goalposts.
No, are you going to present
I'm going to
evidence?
present it to you now. I'm going to
Yes,
shift the
please.
goal. The claim. Because you have to think systematically. What's the claim? New evidence of inscriptions from the Sephardic languages established that the whole of the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic. Yes? Your claim.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you said, give me contemporary evidence, and I said we have the Quran, and you made a challenge. You said, okay, find me you said the Quran only talks to Jews and Christians.
No, that's not what I said.
This is
I can clarify what
okay,
I
no
said.
problem. You said
When you said to idolatry.
it doesn't refer to any other. It doesn't refer to any other pagans or idol worshippers.
I didn't say that.
Okay. Hang on a
What
second. One
I
second.
can clarify what I
You
said.
did.
And then you changed. Then you changed the goalpost. You said, find me something from the Quran, because I said to you the Quran itself refutes the pagans that were amongst the people. You said, find some evidence in the Quran that all of the region was soaked in paganism. You understand? What do you understand the difference? Or you don't understand the difference?
No, I do perfectly understand what I asked.
So you're hang on a second. Do you understand the difference between the different claims you're making? First claim you made, the whole region was monotheistic. Your claim, not mine. Based upon inscriptions that was new evidence. And this is, and then you did this very interesting thing. That this was not, the previous history was not verified, and this history, it was a belief.
It's very true.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking evidence for.
One second. So all of history is interpretative. All of history is interpretative, yeah? Okay. So when you're talking about beliefs, that applies to any historical approach.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about verification and belief, this is a slight of the language, it's not useful. So you made the claim. Now I'm just
I don't understand which part of what I said you misunderstood, Imran. I'm simply making this
Arul,
point.
Let me finish my point. Don't worry, you can speak. When you speak, I don't interrupt you. Just allow me to make a point. So you made the claim that all of the Arabian Peninsula, all of it was monotheistic. That was your claim. Basis for your claim. There's some new inscriptions found in a specific language, Sephardic language, which you say is widespread. Okay, no problem. I don't have issue with that. And then you said this proof. These two things come together. All of the Arabian Peninsula is monotheistic based upon some.
Just repeating yourself multiple times.
I am.
You don't understand.
I don't know why. Because if you're repeating, why can't I begin making my point?
I'll tell you why. Because we're trying to have a systematic discussion.
I know, but you're repeating yourself multiple times.
Yeah. When I repeat myself, I'm highlighting the weakness in two weaknesses. The fact that your argument doesn't follow. Non-sequitur.
You can ask me a question.
No, I'm not
challenge me and respond.
Why don't you let him speak? Why don't you interrupt him?
Abbas, why did you behave yourself? Don't physically touch me and stop me.
I just literally touched you. You're so gentle. I mean, one little touch. Your heart, I'm broken up. I'm hurt. Why do you play the victim? Why do you play the victim? Why do you play the victim?
Don't touch me. Abbas.
Don't touch me. Oh, you broke my arm, Imran.
Abbas, Imran is a bit ashamed.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You're so sensitive.
So
he's much better.
What I'm saying, let's get back to the subject. Let's not have a agree.
It's childish, don't do it.
Stop being. Just focus on me and you. I'm not.
Let him not disturb me. Is he with you?
What did I say to you in the beginning? We're here for truth. Listen to me.
Is he
How
with you or not?
important?
Is he with you or not? Is he with you or not?
This is important.
No, I know it is important, but please don't let him interrupt me.
Don't get sidetracked.
Abbas.
Exactly, sidetracking me.
Hey, what's the face mask for? What's the face mask for? It's not COVID anymore. Why are you wearing a face mask?
It's a tactic. It's a tactic.
Why are you afraid? Are you afraid of the face mask?
Who knows? COVID is over.
What?
People don't wear face masks.
No,
It's not illegal to wear face masks.
No, we want to highlight. We want to highlight.
Are you worried? Are you worried someone's going to attack you here?
Okay,
I will stand in between.
I can respond. I can respond. Imran, you ask me a question.
Why?
No, wait.
He is allowed to wear a mask.
But why is he wearing it?
Sweetie, one second. I'm answering right now. No. Imran, you must understand. Imran, what?
No, hang on.
Can you ask?
Sweetie.
There's too
No,
many.
she can ask. It's not none of your business to stop her. Now, Imran, one second. I'll tell you. I'll give you one. You ask why. You ask me, and I'm answering right now. You know very well. Not long ago, at Speaker's Corner, someone with a mask came to stab Hatun. It was an attempted murder. Stabbed. He ran away. Still at large. So it's a genuine threat at Speaker's Corner with people like him showing up with masks.
What do you mean?
Oh, that's disgusting.
I didn't mean him. People like him showing up with masks. That's racist.
1 second.
This is the tactic here. Do you genuinely believe we need to be? So, in other words, Imran. I know. But you need to understand, Imran. You need to understand. As a gentleman, you need to understand that when someone at Speaker's Corner, thinks that wearing a mask is something to watch out for, it's not a baseless point to make. So please don't.
No. It's a common Christian. rather than deal with the people and the discussion. Because
Imran, are you aware of Hatun's stabbing? Are you aware of it? But are you aware? John McCall, common Christians are completely undermining historically.
Speaker scholars have been here for 150 years. How many people have been stabbed and died? Or even stabbed? How many people have been stabbed?
I know Hatun was stabbed. I know Hatun was stabbed. I don't know about anything before that.
No idea.
I know Hatun was stabbed with a mask.
It is a common Christian tactic. Rather than allow me to speak, I will tell you. Do you want to know what the common tactics are?
Please answer. What's common?
Rather than deal with the discussions and the arguments at hand, is to malign Muslims generally. Look at these scary Muslims.
Imran, are you aware of the fact that a person? Are you aware of the fact? No, Imran. I'm a bit upset with you right now, and this is the reason. I'll tell you the reason.
Control your emotions.
I'll tell you the reason.
Control your emotions.
I am controlled.
Hold
Don't
it in.
worry.
Let's have a discussion.
Absolutely, but I'm going to tell you something.
Control your topic.
Are you? No, I'm speaking right now. Very simply put, it is very legitimate, not just here at Speaker's Corner, but across the country. If a person, it's very legitimate. No, he thinks better. He told you, it's very legitimate.
One second.
It's very legitimate.
One second, Arul. This is.
Can I please finish?
No, you can't.
Can I please?
No, you can't. This is bad manners.
No, but you should tell him not to interrupt.
Hang on a second.
I'm answering that.
When you told her, did I say to you that be quiet? He knows better. Did I say that to you? No. Why are you behaving like this, Arul? Are you here for truth or you just want to have an argument?
That's fine. I'm here for the truth.
Are you here for truth?
Okay, it's a very.
Because I don't want to have an argument. I want to.
Neither do I.
I believe God is one.
Neither do I.
I don't believe God is a man.
Now you're doing marketing right now. No, Imran, I'm just saying it is very legitimate at Speaker's Corner when someone shows up with a mask. It is very legitimate to keep an eye. Why? Not long ago, less than a year ago, someone with some mask on, with some classical Islamic clothing, who came and stabbed Hatun. And so for Christians to be wary of this is very legitimate. Don't be legitimate. Well, if you think it's not legitimate, I disagree with you. I don't want to hear that anymore. I can move on.
Okay, I'll tell you why it's not.
I'm not.
No, I'll tell you why it's not. I'll tell you why it's not. Because as Muslims, we could agree to disagree.
We could agree to disagree, and we can move on.
As Muslims,
I mentioned the point.
Relax. As Muslims, we should be fearful
You see-
of Christians who go and bomb Muslim land, and millions of Muslims have died. Therefore, using your analogy, every white Christian we should be scared of. Is that what we should do? Ridiculous
Do you
argument.
see how we're not discussing the point?
I know. Do you approve of that
see
point?
how,
Ridiculous argument.
rather than clowning around, let's get to the meat of the matter.
Okay, fine.
No, I was speaking. Not fine. I was speaking when you interrupted. When she said, "Why are you wearing a mask?" I was speaking at that time.
I can't remember.
I
If that is the case, you
So I
can go
want
on,
to-
no problem.
And
That's
you
fine.
asked me, why are you repeating things? You asked me.
Yes.
And I was telling
So
you why
I-
I'm repeating things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm trying to illustrate that your argument doesn't follow. And you make points that seem, because you speak very confidently and very loudly, that seem authoritative, but actually there's no substance in them. And this is why, when you put the
Are you going to answer my points? You're just commenting, narrating. You're commenting on the way I speak. Comment on the points I'm making. Are you seeking the truth, Imran?
Here we go, using my words.
No, are you seeking the truth right now?
Using my words.
No, if you're seeking the truth, please don't comment on how I speak. Answer in regards to what I am speaking. I'm asking questions.
What happens when I do that?
You're commenting on how I am speaking.
You're avoiding this.
You're commenting on how I am
When I
speaking.
say, when I try and answer you, you say I'm repeating. You're commenting on the way I'm speaking.
Yeah, in regards to,
Now,
I'm commenting only in regards to.
So there's
I'm commenting only in regards to you repeating the same thing, whereas you could have stopped and I could have started
There
again.
are two options before. We can play this game, and I'm not interested. I'm not interested in insincere discussion. I'm not interested.
Likewise.
So there's two options.
Likewise.
There's two options.
Please don't repeat yourself.
Either make
Answer my question.
No, repeating is not insincerity. It's clarification.
Answer my question.
So either we have a proper discussion or we can leave it. We can
Sure.
shake hands, we can disagree, and we can walk away.
Imran.
I have no problem
So,
with
no
that.
problem. Don't worry. Let's come back to.
If you want to
let
have
me.
a discussion,
I can quickly.
if you
I
want to
can
have a
quickly
discussion,
let you know what the question is.
No.
What are the contemporary evidence that you have? Number one, outside of the Quran, what evidence have you got? Outside idolatry.
Outside of the Quran.
Inside the Quran.
Goalpost moving again.
Even I can follow.
Outside of the
It's not
Quran.
raining already.
Now it's outside of Quran. The first claim was inside the Quran. What happened?
But you
Let me clarify. Outside of the
You
Quran,
guys lost
have you
it.
got any
You realize you
evidence?
lost it.
Inside of the Quran, my point simply was most of the content, I didn't say all, most of the content, most of it is in regards to Jews and Christians. You can go through it if you want. It talks about monotheists who who disagreed with Muhammad later on, is the idea presented. What evidence have you got?
So now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay out your argument for the people to see.
You don't have to do it. I'm not interested. I laid out my argument. Give me answer. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it will take a very long
people
time.
can think.
Why should you repeat my arguments? Am I doing that?
1 second.
Am I trying to repeat your arguments?
Be afraid.
No, I'm not
People
afraid.
can think.
Are you interested in the truth?
Hold the emotion.
Are you interested
Stop
in
interrupting
the
him.
truth?
Give him a chance to speak.
No. I'll give you a chance to speak. I will wait. But only if you're trying to answer my question. Don't repeat my points.
Well, I will answer the question the way I want or the way you want.
Well, in a manner which is sensible, where we are moving towards the truth. If you're just going to repeat me for the public as if they didn't hear me,
I am going to highlight the inconsistencies in the positions you're bringing.
So you're not going
and
to present evidence.
every single.
He will answer it the way he wants.
You're not going to present it because you're
Please, why
you're
don't you
never
go
you're not
there?
allowing me to get to that point.
Please
I'm
get
going to
there.
answer you the way I want. I'm going to highlight the inconsistencies. I'm going to highlight the inconsistencies in your argument. The changing of the goal. Even now, you change the goalpost twice in one sentence. And I'm going to then bring you evidence that will repeat. And I'll tell you. And I'm
Why
gonna-
didn't you do the last one
no,
first?
Because that's
That will settle the issue.
No, the issue's already settled.
What
The
is
issue's
the
already
evidence?
settled. And I'm
What
gonna
is the
highlight it.
evidence?
So here we go. You made the claim that because of recent evidence of some inscriptions in a specific Sephardic language, that this establishes that all of the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic. This is your position that you've come with.
My position, I can clarify.
Let him finish. Don't interrupt. Let him finish. Let him finish his point. Let him finish
Because
his
it's
point.
clear. It's clear.
Let him finish his point.
Abbas,
The more you
please.
Let him finish his point.
Please, please.
Let him finish.
The more you
He's saying, please
interrupt.
don't.
Let him finish.
The more you interrupt.
Let him finish.
The more you interrupt, the weaker your position is going to be. I'm telling you why. Because all I'm trying to do, I'm trying to do justice to your position from my perspective. I think your argument is wrong. And I'm laying out the reasons. I'm laying out step by step why I think your argument is wrong.
But don't
You're not-
misquote me
you're not
while
allowed-
doing that.
you're not allowed-
Don't misquote me.
Okay.
I have said what I have said. If you just stick to your answer, everyone who is hearing knows what I have said.
Everyone
You don't
heard
have
how
to
much you
quote it
interrupt
the wrong
him.
way.
Stop
Let me
it.
put it this way. If
Stop
not,
it.
I
Don't
can
dictate him.
represent because you're misquoting me. I'll represent. Three specific scholars who are the stalwarts in this area. Inscriptions in the Arabian Peninsula, across the Arabian Peninsula, three stalwarts, none better than them. Michael MacDonald, Ahmad al-Jalad, quoting Layla Naimi. Three
Who's quoting
specific.
her?
Michael MacDonald and Ahmad al-Jalad, both scholars in themselves who have the same opinion, and in particular Ahmad al-Jalad quotes Layla Naimi to make this particular point. But these are the stalwarts in regards to inscriptions in Arabian Peninsula, but they are quoting Layla Naimi's work in regards to this particular conclusion, which is for at least 100 years and in some cases even longer than that, going up to even 200 years, in all of the Arabian Peninsula.
All of the Arabian Peninsula.
Yes, in all of the Arabian Peninsula, there was only monotheism.
Only monotheism.
Exactly. You don't have to repeat what I have said. What I'd like you to do
We can
is
hear.
quote evidence, give evidence to the contrary. I am interested in your response, not in you repeating what I have said.
To dramatize.
If you can give me evidence contradicting the three stalwarts, give me scholars whose works you can use, or give me name evidence straight away, which you haven't done so far. If you did that, the conversation would have been, this particular point would have been over and we would have moved on. Do you have any evidence to suggest during the time of Islam's beginning, minus 200 years, idolatry was prevalent, especially in Mecca, but also across the Arabian Peninsula? Have you got any evidence? Prevalence of idolatry.
It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So you bring a theory from one person's theory, because now you see it's clarified. There are two scholars who are quoting the theory of one person that all of Arabia, based upon some inscriptions, was monotheistic. Then you ask me for evidence. I said, okay, I will go directly to the Quran. Because why? This is a contemporary, we have manuscripts dated to the time of the Prophet and his companions. It's a contemporary evidence of the Quran responding directly to the pagans in existence at the time. Not the Jews, not the Christians. So you said, you countered this. You said, no. The Quran only talks about the Jews and Christians. And if it was only monotheistic, there would be no pagans to respond to. But the Quran clearly responds to the pagans. I can show you that. You said you're writing a book on this. So you should know the quotations that deal directly to speak to the pagans. You should know that. So and then you move, then you change the goalposts again. You have to say, I don't have to establish that it was prevalent. No. Your theory is what I'm countering. The counter narrative to the existing evidence, the existing position that the Arabian Peninsula was polytheistic. You're bringing a new evidence to say no, it was only monotheistic is your word. Only monotheistic. All I have to do to counter your argument, undercut it, is to establish one group of people who are polytheistic, who are pagans, not Jews and Christians, that the Quran is referring to, and your argument is done. Your argument is done at that point. Now, do you want me to show you that piece of evidence? Or do you understand the point that I'm making?
So now let me respond. So all of these people are watching you, Imran. I asked for evidence during the time of the beginning of Islam, minus 200 years, to provide evidence for the prevalence of idolatry. You simply did not. You had your chance, you did not present evidence. In contrast, what you did was you went back to only the Quran. That's the only place you went to. Not anything outside of the Quran, which I want to clarify to all those who are watching. Outside of the Quran, no evidence presented so far, no evidence even mentioned so far. Now, in other words, I am willing to agree with you that there is no evidence outside of the Quran. Let's narrow down the conversation. If you disagree, please give me the evidence and I'm willing to consider. So far, you haven't. So I am willing now to narrow the conversation unless you expand by presenting evidence. I am willing to narrow the conversation to only the Quran being a possible evidence, and there my challenge now to you is going to be, please show me from the Quran details of idolatry in a particular place. Now, like I said earlier, I need to clarify what I said right from the start. Most of the conversation, there is one or two minor references, haphazard, with no historical context whatsoever. No one has a clue as to what these things we're talking about, in relation to which region, in relation to which time. No one has a clue. Now, if you're going to, can you please quote me a few passages, no, let him listen first, please. I haven't finished yet, please let him listen.
It's very easy.
Unless you're not pursuing truth, please listen.
Oh dear.
Now, Imran, please get me passages from the Quran where you can give me the historical context of which region is being referred to and specific details of the idolatry in that region, please. If you cannot, I am going to then conclude, just like how you cannot give evidence from outside of the Quran for idolatry around the time of Islam's origin, you simply can't do that from even inside the Quran. That's going to be my conclusion, if you can't present.
Allow me to finish your point. So now we see the fall of the thesis. The fall of the thesis. Arul has just admitted that the Quran does contain statements condemning the pagans within it.
But he said there was none.
Your claim was the whole of the region was monotheistic. Without me even saying anything from the Quran, alhamdulillah. You have said that the Quran does contain statements countering the beliefs of the pagans. But you've added something else on. You said it doesn't say which region and what specific activities. Irrelevant to the discussion. The Quran is in Arabic, from the region, dated to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. And you have admitted that it contains statements that address paganism in the milieu in which it was brought about. This is evidence against your theory. This cuts your theory in half, because you said, what's the thesis? The whole region is monotheistic. If the whole region is monotheistic, why need to speak to anybody about
Sure. Can I now respond?
You want to go away now?
Sure. So if you watch carefully what Imran has done, again he had another chance to present evidence from outside of the Quran, which he still has not done. So I'm going to take it. That he does not have any of them. If you have to contradict that, Imran, you need to. But for now, I'm going to give me maybe one more chance. Otherwise, I'm going to conclude that Imran simply cannot provide extra Quranic evidence at all for the existence of idolatry across the Arabian Peninsula. Now, concerning the Quran, no, I haven't finished. Let me finish. Now, so outside of the Quran, none presented. One more chance, I will seal the deal for that. Now, in regards to the Quran itself, again, Imran, I asked him specifically to go through some passage and clarify the historical context and explain where and when and so on. Imran, you know how history works. Anyone can claim anything. You claim this is written during the time of the advent of Islam. I don't believe so. You need to provide evidence to confirm that. I mean, for all that we know, we have material in the Quran which predates the Quran by hundreds of years. And so who put the Quran together? No one has a clue. When was the Quran put together? No one has a clue. So please don't make assumptions based points here. Please show me, if you need to show me evidence from the Quran, please read a passage, get me the historical context from the passage and establish that there was idolatry of a specific nature in a specific part by giving these details from what you want to use as evidence. Time, place, and the kind of God and so on. If you cannot give these details from the Quran, which I believe you simply can't, because the Quran is a haphazardly put together material. So please, if you want to contradict me, give me details by reading a passage.
Okay, so here we go. So already the theory has fallen, because the position is simple. All of Arabia was monotheistic. This is the thesis. You're working it off one person's theory that other scholars are referring to. That has already fallen because you admitted to the Quran. So let me establish the evidence from it. So you limited my evidence to the Quran after I said the Quran. I didn't say nothing else. I didn't say that there wasn't other evidence, but I said I'll give you evidence from the Quran. Why? Because if you go to the university in Birmingham, you will see that there are manuscripts there that are dated to the time of the companions of the Prophet. Carbon dated. This text is from there. Okay, now. So we have manuscript evidence of the Quran's existence in the time of the Prophet, of the companions. We have that. There's no doubt about it. One of many. There's no manuscripts. There's no complete manuscript of the Bible until Sinaiticus 369 AD. But that's another topic.
That's another topic.
The second point. The next point is that all that's required to destroy this new theory is to prove that the Quran, which was revealed in the region, because it's in the language of the people of the region, because why? The Sephardic language was in the language of the region of the people, is used as an evidence for the existence of the beliefs of the people. The Arabic language was revealed in the language of the region of the people, so it establishes the beliefs of the people in that region in the same way. And the Quran clearly, and I will give you evidence of it from the Quran, but you've already admitted to me the Quran does contain statements that are refuting the pagan.
Sure. Done?
No, I'm not done. So now, I will find evidence, but it's interesting what you're doing. It's not the claim of establishing polytheism. I want to know who did it, when they were doing it, how they were doing it. As if this was part of what the Quran is revealed for. This is a misunderstanding of the Quran.
So,
Hang on, let me finish. Can we find these evidences of what the pagans were doing? Yes. Do we have other evidence to present? Yes. But we haven't got past the first, because the first piece of evidence, the Quran refers to pagan practices within the time of the Prophet peace be upon him, already undercuts the argument that the whole of the Arabian Peninsula, I am repeating, it undercuts your argument, destroys the argument.
Sure. Please don't repeat so we can carry on.
That there were that everyone was monotheist.
Sure. So again, third time, and I said I'll give him one more time, and I've given him that time. Imran, you are a medical doctor here.
I am a medical doctor.
And you know, 3 times you had a chance, you simply could not present. It's okay, that's fine. He simply couldn't present. It's not too bad. He can try next week. He can try next week and try and see if he can present. No evidence outside of the Quran, Imran. That's fine. I agree. You simply could not. I agree, because I didn't expect you to, because I've done my research and there is none. And therefore, no wonder you could not.
Why are you holding Quran then?
No wonder.
What is this? What's this point?
Thank you very much. Now, so no evidence. So thank you very much.
Holding the Quran.
Apologies. Okay, that's fine. Outside of the Quran, I thank you, Imran. Third time asking, none presented. So you agree with me tacitly. Thank you. Inside of the Quran, you tell me it is sufficient for you to quote, mention Birmingham manuscript. Now, believe it or not, I believe that the parts of the Quran certainly date back to what you might call the origin of Islam. But my problem is not that. Quran, I would never claim to be late literature. My problem with the Quran is portions of the Quran seem to be even earlier than Muhammad. That is my problem. So in other words, you can't simply, and this is what the Birmingham Quran manuscripts dating tells us. I'm sure you know, the others are not medical doctors, so they're laughing, but you know better about radiometric dating method, bell curves, inverted normal distribution. We know all of these. Quran, the manuscripts there, dated even before the time of Muhammad. Serious problem. In other words, I'll repeat what I said earlier and I'll ask you for evidence again, third time, from the Quran. This is my point. No one really knows who put together the Quran. We have parts in the Quran which even predates from when it is supposed to have been written. Predates. This is a serious problem. And therefore, you can't just quote any whimsical literature and claim you're making a historical point. I haven't finished. You were a bit surprised that I asked for time, space, place, details. Believe it or not, Imran, when I use the word evidence right at the start, that is what I meant. You as a medical doctor should know it. By evidence, I do not mean some random statement in some literature which no one knows who put together, but rather I want you to give something that can be taken by historians seriously. So please, by all means, if you still want to use the Quran, please do. But when you do that, Please give me details as to why any statement that you are using here has historical merit. And to do that, you need to tell me the time of the writing of a particular statement, the context written. You need to give me those details. You can't just say Quran says and therefore. If that is the argument you want to make, you might as well make that argument right at the start saying Islam says and therefore. And we could have finished the conversation then. I'm assuming you want to pursue truth and therefore we are looking at facts and truth. Please quote me again. This is the third time I'm asking. From the Quran. This is your Quran. And I'm asking you to read a passage from your Quran. Give me details of what it is quoting, other gods, idolatry and so on, which region that comes from, which time and so on. Establish those to be used in a historical context, please. Thank you.
Okay. So now we have come full circle. It's very interesting to watch this. Now, what's happened here? Based upon some inscriptions that were found in a specific language, someone has to come up with the theory that all of the Arabian Peninsula is monotheistic. That this is the theory that Aaron's holding on to. Based upon what? Some inscriptions. Do we know the times, the specific people being referred to, the practices that were doing, all of the things he's asking? Do we know that from these inscriptions? No. This is the thing that he's presenting. Then he says, because now the whole of the Arabian Peninsula is monotheistic. So then he says that I want some evidence that paganism was there, that polytheism was there. So I refer to the Quran and I evidenced it was the Birmingham manuscript. Now he makes the claim, common claim by Christians, they want to try and confuse. This predates the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Predates the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. As if somehow, and this is a common thing that we see, as if this somehow puts doubt as to the origin of the Quran, the time of the Quran. What's the problem with this? You know, even though you're not a medical doctor, gaslighting doesn't really work, but even if you're not a medical doctor, you know that the carbon dating is done on the skin of the animal. It dates the animal itself on which the skin is written, not the time of the writing of the text. Okay, so this idea that this predated the Prophet peace be upon him is erroneous. Erroneous. Okay, so we have a document that was existing at the time of the companions peace be upon him, dated, carbon dated, scientifically accurately carbon dated to that time, that refutes the people of the region for having pagan practices. And if you want verses, I can give them to you, but you've already...
Which is what I wanted for a long time.
But you already admitted to me.
All the time.
You already admitted to me that they were there. You already admitted to me they were there. You have nothing. Sincerity demands. Sincerity demands that you say, yes, Imran, I do know that there are verses that speak about the pagans at the time. And so, the theory that all of the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic is not true. That's what sincerity demands. The question is, Arul, are you going to be sincere and say that or not?
Sure. So, now the challenge is this. Again, note carefully, everyone who is watching. This is Imran, a medical doctor. Abbas, I don't know what his profession is.
Astrophysicist.
Astrophysicist. Wonderful. Despite their highly lofty qualifications, they struggle to answer. They struggle to present a simple thing that I'm asking for, which is evidence.
Yes, right, that's right.
Note carefully, watch the videos carefully. So far, nothing outside of the Quran has been quoted, presented. Nothing. Imran is undermining what I have presented. Why? Imran, I'm getting it right this time. I can become better, Abbas. You can also. So, in regards to the inscriptions, he challenged me because I challenged him in regards to the content of the Quran, when, where, what. By the way, for the Quran you're not doing it. For the inscriptions, people have done it. This is the difference. This is how historical research happens. I can show you a number of Ahmad al-Jalad's work already if you want. Many inscriptions can't be dated, I agree. But the undateable inscriptions are not used in the points that they are making. Thousands of inscriptions from the region have been dated, and they clearly, based on those dateable inscriptions, claim Datable inscriptions claim for 100 to 200 years in the entire region only monotheism based on the inscriptions. If you want to present contrary evidence, you can. But that is what the inscriptions are telling us. Dated inscriptions by these scholars. Now, you again have not presented any evidence outside of the Quran to the contrary, even though 3 plus 1 time you had a chance, you still did not. Now, going to the third chance in giving evidence from the Quran, what you haven't done so far, you haven't read any specific passage from the Quran to give us historical context. I understand that. I understand that very simply, Imran, because I've gone through the entire book and I can simply say no part of history can be established through this book. No part can be, because this is bereft of, this is devoid of historical context. No one who takes history seriously would read this to understand history. No one would, because it simply does not have that credibility. Now, if you want to contradict me, please read a passage from the Quran, give me the context that the Quran gives me, region, time and so on. You simply cannot. I've given you 3 chances already. You did not even attempt so far. What you've rather done is that you can quote. I'm looking forward to the quote very honestly and very seriously. Now, going to the Birmingham manuscript is really interesting, Even a medical doctor like you, can you believe what is happening? Can you believe what is happening right now, Imran? I mean, so far, all known archaeological artifacts are dated in a particular manner. For example, when it comes to carbon dating any written material, like a parchment or a papyrus fragment, so far in history, in all of history, they've only dated the material. That's the only thing we have done so far. And in no other part of history, anyone has a problem so far at all. But Islam has a very unusual problem in that when you follow a simple way which you've always taken to establish the date of a material, Islam crumbles. Because what is claimed to have been written during the time of Muhammad clearly could be predated to Muhammad. Now, you can provide me a dating to the contrary using some other means. Please, by all means, please do. Because you clearly can't use the standard means, because standard means contradicts and laughs at the face of the Quran. And so you can, if you want, use a different technique. But don't just claim that I don't like this technique. This is what has been in use for everything so far. Carbon dating. Whenever carbon dating happens, no one dates the ink. There is no established way of doing it. They only date the material. But no one has been quibbling so far because rest of history is reasonably on solid grounds. But Quranic history is in tatters. The problem is the Quran, when science is used, crumbles down. Therefore, try and use some other technique if you want to, but don't just say, I don't like science. Please don't do that. Now tell me, I'm giving you one more chance. But this is true. All of them are laughing at me.
This is embarrassing.
In other words,
This is so embarrassing.
I'm about to finish.
This is so embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
That point I'm making is very embarrassing. You have chances. Sure. It's okay, man. Please calm down. It's a bit shameful, but that's fine. Now, coming to the Quran. Please, Imran, please read the Quran.
I'm trying not to.
Please read the Quran. Any passage, give me historical context and establish that predominantly across the Arabian Peninsula there was idolatry. Please do. You still haven't done. Plenty of chances. When are you going to read a passage from the Quran?
So let me deal with straw mans if you threw in my direction. I'm so sorry for you, Arul. Now, this is what you're resorting to. I said to you that the animal on which the writing is done is dated. I said that to you. Did you hear me say that? You said to me, don't you know that it's the material that's dated? You we're not having a conversation here.
Anyone can watch the video again.
He's laughing at you.
He's laughing at you.
The truth is clear.
Laughing at yourself.
You see what?
The truth is clear. The truth is clear. Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. But please.
Are you talking to me?
Okay, I'm stop laughing.
Okay,
Sorry.
He's a bit embarrassing.
So first straw man is the dating straw man. I said to you that the manuscript is dated by the material. I said that to you. The animal is dated, not the time of writing. Obviously the animal has to be alive and then live its life and then be killed, and then the skin is used at a later time for writing. This is very straightforward. So this idea of not liking the science, finding another way, red herring straw man. Let's go back to the thesis you're putting forward. All of the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic, based upon the theory of one person and manuscript and some inscriptions that were found of a specific language within the Arabian Peninsula that is generalized to the whole of the Arabian Peninsula. It was not. This is not evidence. But your claim is that all of this region was monotheistic. No pagans around. No pagans. No pagans around. We'll protect you.
Who knows?
I know you're just a joker. I don't think you'll hurt me.
No pagans around. No pagans around. Then I said to you that the only thing that I need to do to defeat your argument is to show that the Quran, which is from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, dated as we have. And you can look at scholars like Margin Fion and etc. who have looked at the Quranic history and established, Angelica Newitt, who have established that what we have of the Quran now is exactly what it was at the time of the Prophet. Textual evidence from non-Muslim scholars. We haven't mentioned our history of oral preservation that's dated and recorded back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad. We haven't even mentioned this. Why? There's no need to. Because that's not your paradigm.
We'll get to that.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'll get to that also.
No
but
problem.
Right, yeah.
Did I interrupt you when you're saying things? Okay. So now you have said to me yourself, your words are that there are statements. This is what's mind-boggling for me, Arul. Be sincere. You said to me there are statements that refute pagans within the Quran. But you said I don't know who they're for and when they're. But your statements directly, you say you know that there are statements that refute the pagans. If there were no pagans in Arabian Peninsula, why would they be there? The whole theory is gone. The theory doesn't stand. That theory of this one academic that you're bringing, that other people are looking at and thinking, oh, this might be useful, it doesn't stand. Why? Because the Quran itself, dated to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his companions, itself contains statements refuting the pagans. How can you, I haven't finished, how can you refute the pagans if they didn't exist in the region? You tell me.
So, again, fifth time of asking, no evidence from outside of the Quran. Imran.
Inside.
I'm answering. I didn't interrupt you.
You did.
Okay, fine. Okay. I did. That's fine. Thank you. So, Imran, fifth time of asking, no evidence presented from outside of the Quran so far. No evidence presented. Which is he going to interrupt like this? Is he with you or?
Okay, one second. So he is saying things, the things that I mentioned.
I know, no, but I'm speaking right now. Is he with you? Can you please ask him? Is he going to interrupt like this or what's going on?
But he is mentioning things that I've mentioned to you.
I know.
That were outside the Quran.
Maybe you didn't hear them, so I'm reminded.
Okay, that's fine.
That's good.
Angela, can you?
You see what's going on here? Ask for evidence and when you had a chance. All that you mentioned, I can tell you.
You mentioned those names.
You mentioned those names
Yeah.
in regards to dating the Quran, not in regards to giving evidence from outside of the Quran for idolatry. I'm speaking now. Imran. You can clarify. You can clarify.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay. Just maybe 10 seconds, please, and then I need to speak.
I did not just because I haven't referred to anything else on the Quran. I haven't. And you keep saying it's a cheap shot. You keep saying you didn't give me evidence outside the Quran. I haven't referred to anything else on the Quran yet, because the Quran is sufficient. Now, what you do in your argument.
You have had plenty of time to do this. Yes. Cool. Okay. Cool. What I'm going to say is, we are here to find out the evidence. We are in pursuit of truth. We are not here in pretending that you could present the truth at some stage. I'm speaking to you for the last half an hour to an hour, actually looking for that truth. You've just been threatened. So you've been given 5 opportunities so far, and I'm just making a factual statement. So far, you haven't presented any evidence outside of the Quran to establish the idolatry that was prevalent at the time of the supposed origin of Islam minus 200 years. You haven't done it. It's a factual statement. You yourself would agree. This is the truth. Now, if you want to contradict by providing evidence, you can. At any point in time, you can. Even now, you can. After I finish the next turn, please do, if you have. But when you cannot, I'm going to take that as lack of evidence, or at least lack of awareness of evidence, which is not surprising to me because I've been doing this research. I don't find any. Now, coming to the Quran itself, I can debate you on what we know about the history of the Quran. Maybe we can do that right away. But my point simply is, it is a fact also that Imran, you had 5 opportunities again, maybe 4. I didn't keep track exactly, but 4 or 5 opportunities to read some text from the Quran. Now you can check and find out, please, if you can. But the point is, so far, no,
This is so entertaining,
you know for a fact. One second. You know for a fact, Imran. Despite the 4 or 5 opportunities, you simply refuse to read a passage from the Quran. No, I haven't. You simply haven't read any passage so far. It's an obvious fact. Everyone would know, and so would you. Now, you can change that fact by reading something from the Quran. What I'm telling you is very simple. The entire book, no one knows who put this together. We have. I'm answering right now. I'm answering right now.
I'm making stuff up.
Now, you gave an indication, based on the Quran, Birmingham manuscript, that maybe this can be dated to Islam. I completely challenge that. We can debate on dating Birmingham manuscript if you want. There are plenty of technical details involved, as you might know. Very well debate that. My simple point right now is focusing on the evidence. I'd like to conclude this point by saying that you still haven't read anything from here. It is true that I said earlier that there is some reference, haphazard, with no historical context. No one knows what is being spoken about what timeline. No one has a clue. For all that I know, they could have been a figment of imagination. They could have been speaking about something that was happening in Persia. They could have been describing something that happened in Afghanistan. No one has a clue. If you think the brief, haphazard references are in relation to the Arabian Peninsula, you need to read the details and establish that. What I am agreeing is very simply is to this point. Most of who are referred to as idolaters, from what I have observed, most of them here are Jews and Christians, in most of these references. Only in some references there are haphazard mention of some name of this god, name of that god, but no one knows. I haven't changed anything. You can watch the entire video, and so far you haven't clarified the historical context of them. You haven't established that they are actually from the Arabian Peninsula. You haven't established that they weren't text copied from some other region. None of that you've attempted to so far. Maybe one last chance you might want to do, but so far the fact is you haven't done it, Imran. That's a simple fact.
Okay, so this is now, you have presented to me evidence that you're asking me for, you've already presented it to me. So you are saying to me, because your thesis was, because of inscriptions in a specific language found by a scholar who has a theory that all of Arabia is monotheistic, you're holding on to this theory. You've been researching and you see you can't find any evidence that there was polytheism there. You can't find any evidence that the Quran mentions polytheism. And you quote to me, you say that the Quran is only talking about Jews and Christians, and then you change it to most of what the Quran is talking about is Jews and Christians, and there is some reference to polytheistic practices within the Quran. Now, you're saying, but we don't know where it's from. It could be from another region. It could be from another region. But what's your basis for making this additional claim? That the Quran is making statements. Now, it's odd that you're asking me to give you verses of the Quran which talk about paganism that you yourself are aware of, because you're telling me that they're there. You understand? You, as a Christian, who are supposed to be sincere, is telling me that you are aware of verses within the Quran that are referring to pagan practices and refuting pagan practices within the Quran. And then you're asking me, but you have to read them to me for evidence. This is insincerity. Then you're saying to me, but we don't know what region these are referring to. They're in the Arabic language. The Arabic language belong to a specific region. The people that are talking about are from this region based upon the language that we're talking about. If you say no, you can't say that because the language used is the language of the people, that the practices refer to the practices of the people, then this reflects on your initial theory. You cannot say Sephardic inscriptions talking about pagan practice, monotheism, refer to the people of the region just because they're in the language of the people. Do you understand the parallel between the two? So number one, you already know that there are verses within the Quran that talk about paganism. You said you were aware of them, but you say that they lack detail. We can bring other detail. Listen to what I'm saying. We can bring other detail. We have hadith. We have historians writing at the time. Even the ones that the Christians like to quote, like Tabari, who talk about the practices of the people in the region. We have other Quranic. We have other evidence. If you want to find physical evidence, you can see statues of the gods that the people worshipped are available for you to look at. You can see them. This is historical artifacts that are available for you to look at now. So there's lots of the evidence is irrefutable. My point here today is to highlight the inconsistency in your argument. A bunch of inscriptions are found in a specific language. You're saying that because of this theory, it implies the region the people of the region, are all monotheistic. The Quran, which we can date to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because of the Birmingham manuscript and other evidence as well. You told me clearly has statements that speaks to the pagans. But you say to me, but we're not sure who it's about. It could be a different region of people. I'm telling you that there's Quran, it's in Arabic, speaking to the people of the region about the people of the region.
So
now, I haven't finished speaking.
And the Prophet's interaction with those people.
Are you upset? Are you gonna?
No, I'm not upset. Imran is.
It's very interesting.
Thank you.
The fact that you're very interactive with any comment that comes from outside of our discussion, for me, it shows you that you're not sincerely having a discussion.
Look, and no one is interrupting you from my side. No one is. Why is he
when I am talking to you,
why is he interrupting?
when I am talking to you, I don't look at anyone else.
Okay.
Why is that?
But
why is that?
But why is it that someone who is with you, Imran?
Did you do that to me earlier? Did you do that to me earlier?
Because I'm.
And you said it was not good to do. You said Christian people are not like great like Muslim people. That's what you said then. Sorry.
Apologies. Okay. So let's get back to the point.
Yeah. So you're about to finish what you were saying.
No.
Okay, go on. Okay, have more time. It only means if we're given more time, we have no evidence. Go on.
You're my evidence.
All right.
Arul has already said to me. Arul has already said to me. He is aware of statements within the Quran that deal with pagans. The Quran is dated to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Sure.
So therefore, already you know of the evidence. Now, Your thesis is undermined. Your thesis is completely undermined.
Okay.
You have to prove
Sure.
against all of the evidence provided.
Can I? Okay. Yeah, sure.
If this is gonna
Please do.
descend
Because
into if this is gonna descend into a farce,
Sure. Finish.
then we can
Please finish.
because I really wanted to get onto the Christian
Quran, yeah, okay. Please, let's finish.
You notice how we focused on this?
Yeah, no, let me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But
once you finish.
Your thesis that all of Arabia is monotheist has not been established.
Okay. Okay. So note carefully. I am using very precise details. Safaetic inscriptions from across Arabian Peninsula, quoting specific names of the stalwarts. All of you can check when you get home. Check the works of Michael MacDonald, Ahmad al-Jalad, especially quoting Layla Naimi. 3 specific stalwarts. The first 2 are stalwarts, absolute stalwarts, and none better than them. Of all, well, I appeal. No, I'm talking about their specific works.
Appeal to authority.
Are you going to interrupt now, Imran? Yes, sorry, thank you. So, I'm giving specific details. I'm quoting their conclusion and I'm giving details of who they are. You can always check when you get home. In contrast, did you see what Imran was trying to do? Statues in Yemen. Well, from statues from when? I agree there was idolatry in the Arabian Peninsula before 200 years, before Islam's origin. I completely agree. And they agree with that too. I also. So the question is not whether idolatry existed at some stage in Arabian Peninsula. No. Origin of Islam minus 200 years. Datable artifacts you simply haven't provided, Imran. You know it. I'm sure you know about truth. You are a medical doctor. You very well know you haven't mentioned any date whatsoever for a specific artifact. Now, coming to the Quranic text itself, let me repeat. I'm not sure where you misunderstood my point, and I tried multiple times, Imran, and I'm going to try one more time, and that's it. And that is this.
That's your last chance.
That is this. Your approach, despite being a medical doctor, your approach, well, this is very important.
Have you heard of gaslighting?
Okay.
It doesn't work.
It's a genuine thing for myself. I can tell you I'm a computer science, and you can use that in your arguments if you want. No problem at all. Despite being a medical doctor, the point simply is, Imran, to me it appears as if just because some statement shows up in some book, which is what I agreed to, some statement shows up in some book to refer to some gods who appear to be idols, you think that already immediately means existence of idolatry in the Arabian Peninsula during the time of Islam, going back 200 years. You seem to think that to be the case. I completely am bewildered, because what I agree to is that most of the text here, the Quran, seems to be only contending with the Jews and Christians, and most of the text here, if you want to contradict, give me details, and I'm giving you most of this is contending with the Jews and Christians, and even referring to them as idolaters. Very few, haphazard, no one knows. Clearly, this is why you can contradict if you want. You can get help from Abbas. Maybe he knows this also. But together somehow provide to me details of time, space, place, corresponding to what is being referred to. My challenge is, you simply cannot. You had 5 opportunities so far, you haven't even attempted to do. You've just said, yes, I agree there is some. Please don't try that. I am agreeing there are some statements. Give me history based on that. Make those statements become evidence for us to grapple with. not just simple statements haphazard in some strange book which no one knows when it was written and so on. So, Imran, all that you need to do is read a passage, establish a date for that passage based on details in the passage, refer to the gods referred to in that passage, establish dates for them, and the region for them. Please do. If you can't do, I'm going to give you one last chance, please, and then we can move on to another topic. And my conclusion would be, despite giving you one last chance, if you cannot go through the details and establish them as historical facts, my conclusion would be, as much as Imran could not give a shred of an evidence from outside the Quran, he is the one laughing, not me.
You're laughing while making the
Is
argument.
there a mirror here or what's happening?
You're actually laughing while making the argument.
You laughed and he's turning to me and asking why.
Laughing at yourself while you're making
I
the
can't
argument.
believe this. Anyway, let's focus.
See, but you don't believe what you're saying, do you? It's like he's even laughing while he says it.
You know what?
He knows it's so fictional that he has to laugh. It's hilarious, honestly.
I really see the nice tactic there. But you know what? The best way to establish what I am saying, not as fact, is to give me the facts, which you haven't done. And therefore, the only person, Imran, you haven't provided.
Give me a last chance.
Yeah, I'll give you one last chance.
This is
Thank
hilarious.
you. I'll give you one last chance. During that one last chance, if you cannot quote from the Quran, a passage, and establish the historical context
Why are you laughing?
of the entities referred to in the passage, then I'm going to conclude that as much as you could not give any detail from outside of the Quran so far, you can't do that from inside of the Quran also. One last chance, and that will be my conclusion.
So, I want you to note.
I mean, no, it must be serious. I'm sure. He's thinking, how old am I? And I still haven't got evidence.
In the rain, normally I'd be really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable.
But today was really good. Yeah?
I enjoyed it today. I really did.
So did I. So
it was
did I.
honestly entertaining.
Absolutely. Okay, fine.
At least we got a good laugh. Yeah?
Absolutely.
You haven't learned anything. You had a good laugh.
No. The reason that I haven't learned anything from you is that you haven't given anything. Abbas, why did you miss that very obvious fact?
Is hurting.
No.
Okay. So let's understand, because now this is my last chance. So I think we're gonna use a concluding statements here.
Use it wisely.
I'm gonna use my last chance wisely. So let's understand the theory that's being put forward.
There we go. No.
Okay. The theory being put forward is that all of the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic for at least 200 years before the time of the Prophet. Based upon some manuscripts and a specific inscription is a specific Sephardic language, a theory of one particular scholar. Okay, this is being put forward to you as fact, historical fact. Okay. Now,
I didn't even use the word fact so far.
This is evidence.
Well, for someone else, for something else, not here.
This is simply a theory put forward to counter the existing narrative that's well established, it's understood that the people at the time of the Prophet were pagan. The region was pagan. Why? Because we have lots of evidence of pagan practice. We have statues from the time, we have inscriptions from the time talking about the different gods, and more importantly, because we're Muslims, we're talking about the Quran, which is dated to within the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, contains refutations of the pagan beliefs and practices within the Quran.
Naming their gods.
One, you said you were aware of this as a Christian. You said you were already aware that they exist. If they already exist within the Quran, and you're aware of them, asking me to quote them to you is disingenuous. is disingenuous because you know of their existence. The point here is what? The theory that all of the Arabian Peninsula put forward by this person is monotheistic is undercut by the existence of passages refuting pagan practices within the region anyway, which you're already aware of.
Sure, Imran.
I haven't finished. I also mentioned that we have other sources of evidence which I haven't got into because we can't get past the point where you've admitted the Quran does contain statements to speak against the paganism anyway. We have the hadith, we have the historical records, people like that, but we have all of these which talk about the prevailing practices of the region. The most important thing here is this theory that you brought forward comes with its own problems. If there was only monotheism in the region, how did it get there? Who brought it? How were the previously pagan people who you admit 200 years before the time were pagans? How did they become monotheists? Where did this monotheism come from? Were they all Christians and Jews then? Because these were the people who claimed monotheism. Or was there another monotheism that existed at the time that wasn't belonging to the Christians and the Jews? It comes with problems. So just to underline the theory, the idea that the Arabian Peninsula was monotheistic, it is based upon the theorization of one particular scholar using some inscriptions, is not sufficient to establish that fact. What you said to me in the beginning is what I expect. You're going to bring me the evidence of this person to look at next time we meet. You said that to me. Remember? That you will bring, because I said this is all academic theory. Until you bring this evidence to me, for me to see, that's all I can look at it. It's a nice theory. You're trying to overturn the existing narrative of the fact that the people of the area were pagan. You said that you're saying that the evidence that I brought with the Quran was not sufficient because it doesn't talk about time and place and exactly what was happening, and you made some other derogatory terms. I'll ignore those because that's fine. I'm not going to be. The whole point here is that the Quran refutes pagan practices of its time. And you are aware of these verses because you told me that they are there. You told me that they are there. Now I can go through the pointless exercise of telling you the things that you already know. You know them already.
Imran.
Let me just finish my. I didn't interrupt you.
Multiple times, but that's fine.
You want to keep it? You want to
No, that's fine.
Eye for an eye, or
No.
Slap one cheek and give the other.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Please go.
So, you already know that these verses exist. So why would I quote them to you? Unless this is all for drama and for show. This is about sincerity. Tell you what you can do to help us with this. Bring your evidence from these scholars with this new theory. Establish for me that the monotheism actually was something that existed in Arabia at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Establish that for me. And then we can go forward from that point.
Sure.
The evidence that I've given you, comes from your mouth. You are aware. You are my evidence. You said to me that you are aware of the Quran speaking against the practices of the pagans. You said that there are some, you used the word scattered and mishmash. This is the words that you use, but they are there. Now that is an evidence that undercuts your theory. Now unless you want to take that back and say there are no verses that deal with monotheism, then we can go from there.
Cool. Thank you very much, Imran. So this is the problem. Just to comment on what you've said. So
Closing statement.
closing statement. So outside of the Quran evidence, you still haven't presented any so far. But you tried, because you said statues, idols from the region and so on, but no detail. When you don't give detail, it's not an evidence. It's just So no evidence outside of the Quran. You said, or actually you attempted using the hadiths and the other literature as evidence. As you might very well know, they are later than even the Quran by hundreds of years.
Not true.
Al-Tabri, when was Al-Tabri written? Hundreds of years later. So please don't use late literature to claim early historical facts. Don't do that. And that will mislead others. They may think that maybe Al-Tabari is during the time of the Quran, which clearly can't be the case, and it dates to hundreds of years after the Quran. So hadiths, it's very true, very true. You can give me more details in our next conversation if you want. So late literature, so that is not evidence that I'm talking about. Number 3, in regards to the Quran, I can't believe you're miscaricaturing a very simple point that I'm making. Very simple point that I'm making, which is Imran this. I understand there are statements in the Quran, with some haphazard references to a couple of different idols. But like I said, most of the contention seems to be against Jews and Christians, referring to them as idolaters. Most of it. Very few, haphazard. No one knows. Note my words carefully. So if you think that I said that I agree that the Arabs were contending at that time, no. No one knows which period they belong to. No one knows which period the idols come from, which region. None of that. And that is where I thought you were going to provide some evidence, which you did not. You simply haven't. In 5 or 6 times, you've just gone back to what I have said. And in other words, Imran, very simply put, for a leading Islamic apologist like you, with Abbas and the many others who are here, leading world-renowned, who have been in the practice for maybe 10 years, 15 years. I have seen.
Wow,
That's the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is a very important fact.
On what scale are we? Shabir Ali, or what would you put us below him? Or?
Well, equal. Let's say.
Equal Shabir Ali.
In my view, equal.
I didn't know that.
My point is simple as this. With that vast level of experience in your kitty, you simply cannot give details. You simply cannot quote one passage in the Quran and establish the historical context, date, time, place. Simply can't. And that is the reality. And I wasn't surprised, because I've done my research and I can confidently say you can't. Even the best of apologists simply can't. And so hopefully at some stage you will leave Islam on this one basis and come to follow Jesus Christ. So with that,
You moved the topic to something else.
no.
One second.
What's the topic?
So I said to you right in the beginning, what were my problems with Christianity?
No, that's a different topic.
No.
One second. No. Okay, so
Arul, let him
okay,
speak.
make your point then. Don't ask me to do that.
I will never worship the creation.
Okay, now you're going to some other topic right now. You're going to some other topic right now. If you want to discuss theology, I can. No, you are going.
Arul,
You very well know. Historical evidence.
Because you have to let him speak.
Historical evidence.
Arul,
We have concluded. Have we concluded that debate?
We're about to conclude now.
We have. Evidence you haven't.
When you make statements, because I didn't tell you to leave Christianity because I didn't do that. Have I said that to you?
Well, that's my concluding remark.
Okay.
The debate was, Imran, you very well know, in a debate in regards to a particular topic, once you've made your arguments for a topic, at the end you can provide an invitation. You can. And that is what I've done. My point wasn't to argue for that.
Or you can reject
My
that.
argument.
You haven't made no argument for Christianity.
I did
You
argument.
made no argument for Christianity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But okay,
That's
I
fine.
completely agree.
Okay.
So to be fair to you,
So all of our discussion
let
has
me
nothing
finish.
to do with Christianity.
Agreed. To be fair to you, so far, maybe the only invitation I can make is because despite your many years of experience as a leading apologist, because world-renowned Shabir Ali, I didn't realize Shabir Ali you consider to be better than you. In my view, all are very similar.
Everyone is better than
You as a matter of fact, I mean, even today you conducted yourself really well, better than Abbas. But Abbas at the end
I agree.
he has come to the place of being having a little bit of manners there. But the point simply is, Imran,
More manners than you.
many years leading apologist,
It's funny,
but he could not provide evidence. That's simply the fact. And so on that basis, my invitation to be fair to you would just be for you to leave Islam. Agrees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.